Hello, welcome to Local Edition. I'm Leslie Leyton. Do you know which elected official of yours to call if you have a question ranging from immigration, Veterans Affairs, if you're a renter, or if your trash hasn't been collected? Well, there's someone to call for each of those, and our next guest is here to break it down for you, to help clarify who to call to get the job done. Welcome, Anaheim Councilmember James Vanderbilt. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you, Leslie. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience today about an issue I think that's been overlooked in the last year and a half. Of course, a lot of the media is focused on the elections, and this has been primarily about policy and legislative issues that, of course, are an important part of government, and that's included with the City Council. But I think what often gets overlooked is another side, which is the administrative side of government.
I think a lot of people don't think that they really can pick up the phone and call their congressman's office, their assemblyman's office, or even your office if they have a question. You don't want to be bugging people, and a lot of people don't understand it's a two-way street. But you're saying, yes, pick up the phone, call, and you can at least get diverted to the proper agency that can help you out. So where do you want to start? You want to start with Congress, what Congress can do for you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. Yes, certainly on the legislative side, your congressperson is dealing with lots of issues that are discussed in Washington, and they collect information from the public in their local district about what they want done on that front. But the congressperson's office can also do something called a congressional inquiry, and it's an option that constituents have to call their office if they're having some hang-ups. I'd say 99% of the time, people's involvement with government agencies goes rather smoothly, and they're able to resolve it at that level. However, on those rare occasions, I think, where people have some unique circumstances and they're just not getting the response that they want, and again, there's so much of a reliance on government. If you think about Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, these are all sorts of entitlements that a lot of people depend on because it's usually a check that they're getting once a month, and of course that is very meaningful to them. So as I said before, it often goes fairly smoothly, but there are occasions where there is a hang-up. Individuals should know that they can call their congressperson who has a staff especially designated to check into those circumstances and help resolve the issue. In fact, it's actually quite expedient. Usually, Congress members' offices get a response within 72 hours from an agency when they contact them on behalf of one of their constituents.
That's pretty good response time. A lot of people, immigration, Social Security, these are very personal issues that hit home, but they can and are addressed at the federal level with the congressman. Yes,
absolutely. Although, before I was fortunate to be a city council member way back after my college days, I worked as a legislative aide in Sacramento, and there I was an intern working for a state senator, and we received so many calls from people who had federal issues, and they thought that they would call their state senator, and we would help redirect them. So it's very understandable that it can be confusing, and it's important for all levels of government and their representatives to be helpful and understand that they can help direct them in the correct direction if they have some trouble.
So Social Security, immigration, business administration, these are the things you might want to contact your congressman about. What about the state legislature, your assembly person? What kinds of things are you saying you should call them about?
Well, again, there's some overlap. So for instance, you mentioned, federal issues, and one that we're all familiar with, I'm sure, is the IRS, for instance. We all have to pay our federal taxes, but we also have state taxes, and in that case, it's the Franchise Tax Board, which is a separate agency that can also be needed for people who have issues, if there's a refund that they're trying to get, or if they're having some questions about what their filing status is. And the state does also a lot of similar services to the federal government. Healthcare is also by a large part handled at the state level, and so are several social services. And in fact, the state even has its own Veterans Affairs service. So California residents may find that their state agency is probably more appropriate than federal agencies in a lot of instances. And again, if they are having trouble with a particular agency, it doesn't hurt to try to contact their local assembly member or state senator. That information is readily available. Or they can contact our office, and we can help direct them to their particular offices that they need to talk to, because in Anaheim in particular, we have several assembly members and a couple of state senators that represent us because the city is so large.
Mm-hmm. So for state tax issues, for disability, and also DMV issues, you could call the state. What about your office? What about your city council? You are in Anaheim, but across the board, what issues, do you call your city about?
Well, certainly things that are probably closest to home. I mean, your sidewalk, for example, your street. If you have some potholes, these are common issues that local governments handle, and our office tries to be very helpful with making sure that the particular department within the city is notified if there is an issue that some Anaheim resident has. We're also, of course, in charge of people's public safety, so fire issues, public safety issues that involve the police are also appropriate to contact us about. Trash pickup, as you mentioned, another area. And then, what should also be mentioned is if there's an issue about education, or schools. There are in Anaheim we have 7 different school districts that serve Anaheim residents. And again, depending on where you live, our office would be happy to help. But one thing that's occurring in terms of particular council members' assistance is this notion of districting in Anaheim. So we've just now turned over to a system where we have 6 separate city districts that divide the city more or less north and south, and they are now in effect, and we have in a couple of weeks new council members coming on board to represent areas that haven't been represented in the past.
So now you really do have a specific city council member to call if you have a question about what's happening exactly where you live. So hopefully you'll be able to get a response to your needs specifically from someone who oversees that area.
Yeah, certainly somebody who is local to you and probably is most familiar with whatever your issues may be would be a good starting point. One thing I'm hoping that the council also remembers is that we represent the entire city, and so all of us should be familiar with issues and challenges, and all of us will be willing to help any constituent who contacts our office. We're lucky in Anaheim because the staff is very responsive to any inquiries that come into my office or other council members' office. That we are usually able to see a response again within a couple of days. A very detailed email response if somebody wants to write our office or call us. And certainly there are some issues that are important down the road that we're talking about, the larger issues. It might be, for example, construction of a facility that's going to recycle food byproduct is an issue that we've heard a lot from constituents. We're hearing a lot about the changes in law regarding marijuana and the dispensaries that might be provided or available in the city for them if now that the new law allows that.
It would be wonderful to see what kind of response you're able to provide with districting next time we talk. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah,
James
thank you,
Vanderbilt,
Leslie.
City of Anaheim. And thank you for joining us. I'm Leslie Leyton.